Okay, so everybody keeps asking me this question, and I made a video about this before. Fuji is coming out with a new camera. It will either be announced later this year, or more than likely like March or April of next year. It's very likely it will be announced later this year. There's a really strong indication that it will be, because Fuji came out with so much stuff last year, especially stuff that dropped this year like the GFX, that they're really, right now, they're flush with orders. But you always have to drop new products. Fuji, I would rather have a company that doesn't drop new products all the time, but when they do drop them, they're really, really good. And this is where I'll definitely attack Sony. Fuji actually tests their products very intricately and deeply before releasing them, whereas Fuji's like, well, if that one's screwed up, it's okay, because we're going to come out with a new version 9 months from now. That's a really, excuse me, but that's a really crappy way to treat your customers. But the new Fuji camera is going to have in-body image stabilization, as been mentioned. But what it's going to be is, obviously, you can't compensate for the circular projection on many of Fujifilm lenses, since it'll have in-body image stabilization. What it's going to be is a pro video version of the current X-T2. So the camera features will likely be not at all, if very little, expanded, but what will be greatly expanded is the usability of the camera for pro video users. And as I've mentioned 100 times, I don't give a damn about video. I'm not a video person. I don't really give a damn about video. But a lot of people do, and they'll be looking forward to getting the new Fujifilm Pro Video version, which will obviously shoot 4K. The way they can get around this is what the D500 has, which does not have image stabilization, thank God, is that it actually samples as the camera shakes. What it does is it samples the sensor. So there's a way around physical image stabilization of the sensor, which has downsides, is that you can actually shake the, when you actually induce shake into the camera, that the sensor can be sampled in a moving pattern. And that's digital stabilization. So that is what the Fuji could have with a certain number of their lenses. As far as the physical in-body image stabilization, Fuji's already had for the Sony mount, I think it's the E mount or is the A mount lenses, the two pro video lenses. So they'll obviously have those on their own Fuji mount, and it will be likely the case that they will introduce one lens, or they could already have, and you wouldn't know it, a couple lenses in the lineup. I hear that the 50 to 140, because Fuji always plans things well in advance. It is very likely the case that the 50 to 140 f2.8 already has an image circular projection wide enough for use, and that is the reason also the 16 to 55 2.8, that lens does not have stabilization itself, which is fine, and there is high indication that Fuji, and that lens also is extremely quiet. That's one of the reasons, even when the X-T2 came out, that the 50 to 140, and I have all the Fujifilm's lenses, the 50 to 140 is incredibly not only fast, but also very silent for video work currently. The 16 to 55 is ubiquitously acknowledged to be the most silent lens that Fujifilm has. People were wondering why it didn't have lens side image stabilization. That was their one complaint about it. And it is extremely likely that Fujifilm designed that with the forethought in mind that they would be coming out with a video version of the X-T2, which would make use of the larger circular projection of the 16 to 55 2.8 lens, but then therefore take the image stabilization, which does not exist on that lens, and have it be within the body. So that lens will be perfect, since presumably those two lenses, I don't think there's a third one, but those two lenses already have an image circular projection large enough to allow for full sensing of the 24 megapixel sensor. Surely it'll be the exact same sensor as exists in the X-T2, to be absolutely certain. So I don't know how much more expensive that will be, but it'll be a pro video version of the X-T2. That way there's very little cost expenditure on the count of Fuji. They will have two lenses already, plus their two video lenses. That's 4 lenses, and that's enough to cover, you know, most all video work. The 16 to 55 2.8 is a marvelous lens. It's very silent, it's very fast, And it's very likely that Fujifilm themselves designed that lens with that forethought in mind, along with the 50 to 140 f2.8. I have both of those lenses. They're both very silent and very fast. So there's two chances, and the highest probability is that Fuji will announce it later this year and then release the camera next year, or announce it in March for release in mid-year of 2018. One of those two scenarios is the highest likelihood to be certain. As far as anybody holding off on the purchase of the XT2, it's like, well, I'm going to wait for the next iteration of the XT2. Well, the next iteration would technically be the XT3. So if you're a photographer and you're holding out for the XT3, if you do that too, it's very stupid. It's like, well, I'm always going to hold out for the latest. Well, if you do that, you're never going to buy any camera ever. But there's no indication to logically assume that you're going to get anything really as a photographer on the next iteration, which would be a mid-iteration between the XT2 and the XT3, which will be this pro video version of the XT2. No indication other than it being a pro video camera with 4K, a lot of capabilities, S-Log, blah blah blah, all the things that the video heads really, really want. Very, very, very smart. If I was Fujifilm, this is the exact same move I would pull off. The exact same thing. Very little cost expenditure. We're going to take pre-existing lenses, two of which, including the two video lenses, which will make 4 lenses total, out of the gate. This next iteration of the XT2 or the XT2 Pro Video, whatever the hell they're going to name it, will already have 4 lenses. More than enough for all Pro Video users to be happy with. Very low cost expenditure. Make a lot of people happy. Bring a lot more people into the Fujifilm foray. It'll suck off all the people that are pissed. I've heard a lot of really bad complaints about video performance on the GH5. I bet that made Fujifilm really happy. Right now, Fujifilm is poised to take all those people who have been disgruntled with the Pentax GH5, which all reports are that it actually has worse autofocus performance and reliability than the GH4. Suck all those people of the Panasonic world over to Fujifilm. Obviously, definitely better build quality, better customer service, and if it has 90% of the video features of the Panasonic GH4, GH5, I mean, that will just seal the deal right there. It would be a very, very, very smart move by Fujifilm, and to be certain, that is exactly what Fujifilm is doing. I mean, I don't bet on anything, but if I were a betting person, I would put a lot of money on that one. I'm absolutely certain that that's exactly what's going to happen. And those are the two time frames in which it can occur. Announcement later this year for release first part of 2018, or announcement in March or April for release of mid-2018. But photographers should not be holding out. It's like, well, there's going to be another Fujifilm. Maybe I'm not going to buy the XT. No, just buy the XT2 now. There's not going to be any foreseeable improvements. I mean, they could up the buffer rate some. It's very, very unlikely. Nah, it's not likely. So that's it on Fujifilm, and their next iteration between the XT2 and the XT3, which will be a Pro Video XT3, whatever the hell they name that. I have no idea. Does that really matter what the hell they name it anyway? No, not really. Only that you know that it's coming and what it's going to be and why it's going to be. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and catch you later. Bye.